Fred Film Radio, I'm Angela Cerbi from the 81st Venice Film Festival, here with Petra Costa and Alessandra Orofino for the film Apocalypse in the Tropics, which is sounds like a disaster movie, an American disaster movie, and it is a little bit of a disaster movie, right? Don't you think so? In terms of the gravity and the heaviness of the issue, Petra.
Yes and no.
And no.
I think the film, one of the greatest revelations that the film brought with me is this double meaning of the word apocalypse, that apocalypse means for us the end of the world, but actually the Greek meaning of that word is revelation. It's to take out the veil. And what we've tried to do with the film is precisely that, to take out the veil that of what seems to be a very dystopic present, and see how we have arrived here, and what are the paths that could take us out of this far-right religious fundamentalism that is eroding our democracies, not just in Brazil, but worldwide.
No, totally not only Brazil. Brazil is just a mirror to the rest of the world for that. It was a long process, I know, like 10 years, right? So, Alessandra, under the producer point of view, how hard it is to put up a movie like this?
It was definitely a long process. We were lucky that Petra is a very tenacious artist, and she will not let go of a project once she's deeply involved with it. And we had an amazing team, the most incredible editors and photographers who worked with us along the way. I think that the hardest piece was ensuring that we had the right access, that we had built trust relationships with the key characters so that we could film them in a way that was authentic, and at the same time that Petra had the time to go through that material, to really learn from it, let the material guide her so that she could develop the voiceover and a point of view that we hope will resonate with the audience, so it's not just them seeing how these characters move in the world, but also seeing how Petra engaged with them and how she engages with the key questions that the movie is trying to bring to the surface.
Yeah, what is really appalling and interesting at the same time of the film is how such things could happen.
Yeah,
you know?
In a snap. You think it will take? You think that that you arrive at fascism, that you will arrive at an autocracy or even a theocracy gradually, but it's as Hemingway says, it's slowly and then suddenly, like in a slap. But there's also a question of faith, right? We tried to build the movie as a road trip through the minds and hearts of us who were witnessing this process of erosion of democracy. And what we discovered is that one of the main elements of democracy is actually the abstract element of faith. When people lose faith in democracy, that's when the other things start to happen, right? That's when populist movements gain.
Yeah, because they need to find faith somewhere else.
Yes.
And this is, it was very interesting to, the tale of the development of democracy in Brazil. You talk about the building up of Brasilia as like the beacon of democracy, of equality, and then something didn't work because it didn't happen like this. And in your analysis, why do you think there's such things as this very extremist right-wing movement happen? Why? How?
Well, I think it has to do with the fact that we are living through an age of revolution, and the revolution of information, right? With the same effect that the print revolution had centuries ago, we are still trying to understand the effects of the social media revolution, which to this moment has no regulations.
No.
So these far-right leaders, with the support of billionaires, are pushing through so much fake news in social media, and the social media platforms also, unfortunately, do not yet have the mechanisms to not amplify tribalisms and hatreds. And that is one thing. The other is this unregulated capitalism that has become kind of self-devouring monster. Yeah. How can we live in a world where there's no limit to profit, no limit to exploitation? This has taken aspects that even Adam Smith, I think, would cut his wrists if he saw.
Probably you're right. He's crawling in his grave, the poor guy.
Well, when it comes specifically to the phenomenon of religious fundamentalism, one of the things that the film reveals is that there was also a project, right? There was also an intention to that. In Brazil in the 60s and 70s, as with in many other countries in Latin America, there were movements, particularly inside the Catholic Church, that tried to tie religion more closely to fights for social justice and inclusion in a region that was growing but also had deepening economic and social inequalities. And at that time, the Catholic Church was seen as a threat by some of the most important allies of the Brazilian dictatorship, including the United States. So our research team was able to uncover documents that show how American missionaries were sent to Brazil with the intention not only to evangelize the country, but specifically congressmen. And how, of course, and that is more known, how the Catholic Church itself silenced theology of liberation, which was this particular strand of theological thought, and replaced it with something else. So the idea that I think here we have an organic movement, but we also have something that was intentional and planned.
Well, thank you a lot. Thanks for the movie, first of all, and thank you for being with us, to Petra Costa and Alessandra Orofino for the film Apocalypse in the Tropics. I'm Angela Cherby for Fred, the Festival Insider.